How much has been made of the relationship between Netanyahu and Obama, and how would you characterize that relationship?
I, of course, am shocked that I got this question. But I'm glad I got the question, because I want to put it in perspective. And I'm actually probably one of the few people who has also worked for, I've worked with every Israeli prime minister since Yitzhak Shamir, and with every president except Bush 43 since that time. So let me put this in some perspective. First, I think there's three issues that I would outline to put this in perspective. The first one is the core of the relationship with Israel always has to be built on what I call a foundation of security. Because without security, Israel really doesn't have much. So everything derives from that. In this president was committed from the very beginning on the security issue, and also made it clear whatever the political ups and downs might be, the security question was always put in a sacrosanct category. And so what has happened, and I can say this from the perspective of someone during the Reagan administration, I was one of the original authors of something called strategic cooperation. What we envisioned at that time is something that has been developed, but frankly, what has happened during the Obama administration has exceeded anything that has been done in any previous administration. And it's been done, I just want to say, I'm not doing it for applause, I'm doing it just to state the facts. What's been done is not just security cooperation with Israel, but it's also what we do for Israel. I emphasize both. The for, because it reflects our commitment to Israel. The with, because it reflects our mutual interest in the fact that Israel also offers something to us. We have a strategic partnership because Israel also is an asset for the United States. So the first thing is, what we do security-wise today is at an unprecedented level in terms of everything you could imagine. The high-level meetings, the ongoing assessments, mutual assessments, the discussions on the region, the kind of exercises we do with each other, the scope of the overall security cooperation between the militaries. I could go on and on and on. This is at an unprecedented level. Literally, during 2011, we had every week, every single week during the year, we had a high-level delegation from our side or their side, either in Washington or in Israel. Because the character of the cooperation and what was being done just had never been done before. And by the way, Ehud Barak has said it publicly. Bibi has said it publicly. In security, which I say is the first item, the foundation, what you're seeing today has never been done before. So that's the first point. The second point, every president that I've known throughout this period, there's been ups and downs because, believe it or not, we don't always agree. It's not unique to Israel. We don't always agree. Let me pose a question here. How many people here think that Ronald Reagan was a friend of Israel? I'm not talking about whether he visited. That's not the measure. He didn't go to Israel, but you traveled to Israel. That's the measure. I mean, I think most people would say, and most Israelis would say, Ronald Reagan was a friend of Israel. They would say that. Now, Ronald Reagan suspended F-16 sales to Israel after Israel bombed the Osirak reactor, and he presented the Reagan plan even though Menachem Begin was totally opposed to it. He presented over his objection. But anybody would say that Ronald Reagan was a friend of Israel. Strategic cooperation, which didn't exist before, was created during the Reagan administration. He was a friend of Israel. But there were ups and downs. How many people here think Bill Clinton was a friend of Israel? I mean, I could tell you, in Israel, he could probably run today and be elected. No, I heard that. He could run in many places and be elected. Bill Clinton at one time wouldn't see the Prime Minister of Israel, happened to be Bibi Netanyahu. I was managing this, and at one point, wouldn't see him. They're both in the country. Their planes were parked next to each other in Los Angeles. Wouldn't see him, wouldn't talk to him. But he was a friend of Israel, and nobody would question that. you have ups and downs in the relationship. But if the foundation is solid, and if you manage in the end those disagreements, you are what you've seen. You look historically; these were people who were friends of. These were presidents who were friends of Israel, and things weren't always perfect between us. Third point I would make: you measure whether someone really is, that they have trust in someone else, by are they there, when the chips are down. So when the Turkish flotilla took place, and the Israelis intercepted it and killed 9 Turks, and suddenly there was an international uproar, who was the first leader that Bibi called and spoke to several times that day, and who he relied upon to protect Israel? That would be President Obama. And when there was a near lynching in Cairo at the Israeli embassy, who was the first person that the Prime Minister called? It was President Obama. And each time when the chips were down, he delivered. Now, if you don't trust somebody, that's not the first person you call. So if you ask me, about the personal relationship, I say I put it into perspective, and I look at the totality of the relationship from a security standpoint, from the character of 30 years of looking at relationships between presidents and prime ministers, and from being there when the chips are down, I'd say the relationship is on a pretty solid footing.